Well, let's talk to celebrity lawyer Nick Freeman, known colloquially as Mr. Loophole. Nick, thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning. Obviously, we really feel for these people. Good morning. We feel for these people. Is there anything, though, that they can do?
Well, absolutely. Look, the worst thing in the world they can do, really, is to accept a speeding ticket for something they don't feel they're guilty of, something which they're unaware of. I mean, just to spool it back a little bit, what's happened is TfL have regarded this road as being dangerous because of the flooding. Apparently, there's been a history of flooding. And ordinarily, what would happen is they would introduce a temporary speed restriction, and there would be notice in the newspapers. There will be all sorts of things done to advise people in advance, maybe on the radio station, so that everyone will be aware. But what they've done is they've introduced emergency provisions which dispenses with the need for notice. So in these particular circumstances, the motorist is completely reliant on correct signage. That's the only means of knowing. So it's highly significant because of the way TfL have conducted themselves. And it may be they didn't realise it was as severe as it was, and they wanted to save life, and they thought, we need to just do this as an emergency and not give people notice. You would like to think that they would have a sort of a honeymoon period so that people would be aware and get used to it. And many councils, many authorities who reduce speed limits actually do have a honeymoon period, and they also put signs up. But in any case, it doesn't appear that that's happening on the A20 at Sidcup. So, as I understand it, many motorists who are law-abiding citizens, by and large, are getting 3 and 4 tickets, which can have catastrophic consequences. I wouldn't advise anyone to pay those tickets, because if they do, they're basically falling on their sword. They're accepting fixed penalties. If it's 4, they won't actually be able to accept the 4th one unless they've done a speed awareness course. So it depends on how many points they accumulate. They'll be allowed 1 speed awareness course if they haven't done one in 3 years. You then have an aggregation of points. As I understand it, there is pressure being put on the authorities at the moment to consider again what action to take during this particular period of time, because there was a road sign there. I don't specifically know where the sign was, but as I understand it, it was in the middle of the average speed area. It's not a one camera, it's over a period of 2 points. So it's likely to throw the motorist's average speed into complete disarray. They think it's 40, they then see 50, so they're going to speed up, and then they see 40. So it's going to increase their average speed and potentially place them over the 40 mile an hour tolerance zone, which is 10 plus 1. They prosecute at 10% plus 2. So my advice to motorists will be, first of all, if you accept the fixed penalty, that's basically it at the moment. And unfortunately, the consequences that go with that can be very draconian for you, depending on your own circumstances. And obviously, it has a knock-on effect on your insurance. I would wait. I don't think it's the end of the world if you pass the time limit. The prosecuting authorities may allow extra time. If they don't, what will happen is there will be a decision in due course. A summons has to be issued within 6 months. So there's a lot of time there. And if a summons is issued, what happens is it goes to a magistrate's court. It's called a single justice procedure notice. And if the authorities have not decided to relax its enforcement of these provisions and wants to go ahead, in my view, the court would deal with these notices, these speeding fines, on the basis that they were a fixed penalty. There is authority for that, and I don't think that there will be any extra penalty because people have waited, bearing in mind there is an ongoing investigation, and it would be wrong that disadvantages motorists because the ongoing investigation doesn't finish before their time is up. So I don't think they would be prejudiced. They may need to just speak to a lawyer and ask the lawyer how to deal with it. But there's an ongoing investigation. That the summons may not come to court before 6 months. It may even be longer than that. It would have to be issued within 6 months of the date of the offence. And if at the end of the day they then decided, look, I'm going to take my medicine, that they would plead guilty and that they would point out that this was a situation, the court would be very familiar with it in any event, and I imagine the court would just deal with it in the same way. And I'm not urging that on people. I would urge motorists in this particular scenario, and every case is different, to see a lawyer, seek legal advice, and fight these, because there's 4 different provisions that come into play here, and that it is complex. But stripping it all away, if you have a rogue sign, which basically means the motorist is not sure what the speed limit is, that is fatal to the enforcement of these speed limits. I don't know exactly where this rogue sign is, but it is fatal. It's in breach. There is a statutory duty to remove signs that are no longer there. Now, I appreciate the authority didn't put these signs up, but there was a sign there. They were there. They're responsible for the maintenance. They have a duty under the 1984 Act to take the signs, any offending signs down. They need to do that, and this offending sign was there, and this has clearly caused huge disarray to otherwise legally compliant motorists.
Exactly.
So it cannot be right. So, and that is fatal. But you would need to argue it in court, or the prosecution, if they're sensible, the authority is sensible. I don't understand why common sense isn't kicking in here, because what we're looking at is thousands of people. And I think it's thousands of people who probably have clean licenses, who completely comply with the limit, are getting 3 and 4 speeding tickets. It's outrageous. It's ridiculous. And justice will come down on their side, but it won't necessarily if they just pay now. It's a much more complex program. So I would wait, be patient, trust the system. You can always get legal advice, but don't panic, because if you panic, you're going to do something that's going to be against your own interests. I would basically wait and see. If it goes wrong, get some legal advice, and I would be advising motorists to fight it.
Thank you. And I'm sure everyone listening who's in that situation will be so encouraged by what you've said. There is hope. Don't panic, says Nick Freeman. Nick, great to talk to you. Thank you for helping us to see the wood for the trees in that particular scenario. That's celebrity lawyer Nick Freeman. You might know him as well as Mr. Loophole. Having heard that, how do you feel?